the Celestial Perspective Podcast, bringing you a fresh perspective on the Celestial Church of Christ.
Hey there, amazing listeners of the Celestial Perspective Podcast. We appreciate you for following this podcast. We appreciate your comments, your reposts, and other engagements. We've been on an incredible journey together, exploring thought-provoking topics and sharing valuable insights. But to keep the conversation going, we need your support. We are on the lookout for headline sponsors and generous donors who believe in the power of meaningful conversations. Whether you're a business looking for exposure or an individual who values the impact of our podcast, your contribution can make a real difference. Reach out to us today. Let's make a positive impact together. And for donations, please use the account number showing somewhere below. Until next time, stay tuned to the Celestial Perspective Podcast. Look out for our next episode, and let's keep the dialogue alive. Welcome to another beautiful episode of the Celestial Perspective Podcast, where we bring you a fresh perspective on the Celestial Church of Christ. As you already know, my name is Joseph Erinle, and with me is my delectable co-host.
Hi, Joseph.
The beautiful Oyi. What's happening now?
Thank you.
It's nice to always see. It's always a pleasure.
I'm ready for some sprinkling
Just
of,
a sprinkle.
violence.
Just a sprinkle.
Here and there.
All right, so as you know, we always discuss salient topics that are cogent for the hour. And our topic today, before I dive into that, I would like us to introduce our guests. First person is my oga here, Emo.
Emu Gbangba.
Okay, so I think I am obligated to read his bio. So let me read his bio. Muyiwa Olaitan is an ideator,
Okay.
brand strategist,
Mm-hmm.
and tech founder.
Come on.
A Celestian of over 40 years.
Mm.
Best known for his desire to see a better all-round CCC. Ogami sir, welcome.
Welcome to the
Hallelujah,
show,
everybody.
Emu.
My name is Muyiwa Olaitan. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Ola. Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you.
to have you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Nice to. So sitting directly beside him is another Oga of ours, Oluwamuyitomiwa Joshua, popularly known as Sazi. Am I correct?
Sazi speaks.
He is an astute public speaker, preacher, writer, and blogger. His passion cuts across personal and youth development politics, good governance, and music. The firstborn in a family of three, and let me just chip it in, is the grandson of the founder of our wonderful church. Nice to have you with us, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
And the son of Prophetess Deborah. She's on one of the episodes.
Yes,
yeah.
one of the episodes that we recorded.
Okay.
Thank you for coming,
Thank you very
Tomowa.
much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. And our topic today is celestial bloggers and their excesses. I want to start with Emo, sir. We have a myriad of blogs that post to be celestial blogs. And we see all sorts of content, here and there. Now, why are these blogs not even regulated to begin with? Because everybody is a representative of Celestial Church. Everybody is a spokesperson for Celestial Church on social media. Why are these things not regulated?
All right. Let's start from rock bottom. So, if you care about your image, your reputation, your public impression, you invest in it.
Right.
So, our church as an institution has created an avenue for a lot of these guys to ride on. You cannot set up a blog called Catholic Church Today.
Mm.
It will not happen.
Direct.
Or Anglican lately, and say you are just writing things about the Anglican church.
Let me chip in. Why would it not happen?
Good. The Anglican church, the Catholic church are institutions. Some of those institutions they are all religious, but they're even bigger than some of your public corporate institutions that you know.
Yes, affirmatively.
And the managers, the drivers of those institutions pay very keen attention to the public impression of that institution. Let's go to the Catholic Church, for example. There was a time where it was public knowledge that fathers were now going homosexual.
Yes.
The Catholic Church were very, very intentional about the PR that was deployed to address that, because that church were already suffering some backlash, or from some backlash. They started to see gradual exodus of their young members into more of the Pentecostal folds, or some of them even returning back to churches like ours, the spiritual churches. And they were battling those type of issues on the ground before. So now you build that type of troubling impression on top of it. They needed to bring out, I believe, perhaps the best of the best in their fold, and make them spokespersons for the church, rally some non-religious media as well to help them put out the right type of impression. Now, with regards to Celestial Church, I think, and I want to believe so, we do not really care about the image and the impression of our church.
I'm talking about
we.
Yeah, thank you. Who are the we?
The administrators of the church, the founder, I won't say the founder is gone, he did his bit, credit to him. The administrators today, the leaders today,
okay,
and perhaps to a large extent the general fold of the church, we do not truly care about the impression of the church.
How do you categorically speak for every member of the church?
Okay, so I dare you to go online and take days to research and look for one particular crisis from the RCCG, one particular public crisis, and see if you can find any. Spend a whole weekend. The last thing that came out of Foursquare Church was the lecturer in Unilag.
Yes.
Yes. You heard that case?
Yes.
And immediately the Foursquare Church wrote a public disclaimer the next day. And that was the last we heard about any issue from the Foursquare Church. Does it mean they don't have issues? No, they do have issues.
But what we see is the amplification of these problems in the purview of the public by our own blogs. Like if there's an issue in this church, maybe in a parish, something happened, it is the celeb blogs that you will see that will post it.
Okay, Ola, you say you want to regulate media, right? When Nigerian government or any government out there wants to regulate media, the first thing they do is they set up a law called what's that thing called? The social abuse law or something.
Social abuse.
Something, a law that allows you, that can be used against you if you try to bastardize the image of an someone, organization, or threaten someone, or bad language against someone, or
maybe defamation.
Defamation of character, yes.
Okay.
So now, bring that to our church. How many of these guys, so you can it's a carrot and stick approach. You can rally them, sit down with them, sell what you want, sell the new position of the church to them, the new impression of the church, what you want the church to be known for, yada, yada, yada. Or perhaps pick one or two of them, correct, perhaps make a sample out of them if you want to tame the others. So you can either use the, like I would always say in my church, Moroni type of approach, which is the Jesus Christ approach. Moroni.
But do you think that works? Does that work?
I'm going somewhere.
Okay.
Or the Moses type of approach. Iwokubodo. Thou shalt not. That's the Moses approach. Jesus Christ is the Moroni. Let's come together and reason.
Okay. I beseech thee.
I beseech thee. So if the church says today that they now want to really and truly care about the image of this church, before you even do that, ask some basic salient questions. Who owns the global patent of the church? The identity patent of the church?
That's
who
far.
did it?
But let's ask this question. Should that even be in question?
Does it even exist? They will tell you it does exist. Does it exist? If it does exist, you want me to shake the table or not us to be mild?
Please shake it.
If it does exist,
destroy it.
Why are we here?
If it does exist, there is an individual, son of a shepherd from one of the churches in Oshodi, who did volumes of recording of the celestial hymns and has been selling it over the years.
Yes.
And I'm very sure, I stand to be corrected. Has not paid a dime in royalties back to the church. So if you take that individual to the court. How do you win your case?
But then there are other folds that you can just go to the studio and sing. It's not your voice. It's your voice. Is your energy. Is your money. Is your investment. Shouldn't you enjoy the returns of your own?
Is it your song?
Is
So most of the songs that I believe, again, out of my research, most of the songs that we sing in the Christian fold today are songs that came out of the early day apostolic churches,
correct?
Aladura churches, perhaps.
Most or some?
Most.
I would say some.
So, okay, let's say some. Some were also taken from perhaps the Anglican Methodists and so on. But I know for a fact that you cannot, like Yoruba people will say, Gojugboya, take the Catholic hymn book and record 40 songs or hymns.
Correct.
That's audacious.
And commercialize it.
That's
if
audacious.
you sing it to promote God, if it's free distribution, they might not raise a brow. But the moment you record it and you commercialize it,
you're earning.
Then you might be setting yourself up for battle.
Okay, there are certain areas of our worship, our liturgy, that are, sacred. Not because we're trying to hide them from the general public, but because they are sacred. There is rarity to sacredness to some extent. For instance, there are certain masses in the Catholic Church that you cannot see on social media. It's not because they are doing anything wrong, but it's just that, they believe that it is sacred. And nobody goes there with their phones recording anything or, what have you. But we find in our church where bloggers take anything and post anything. In fact, you can see where a blogger is posting a sides man, for instance, where he's preparing the incense for the service. You'll find instances where bloggers will post, members of the church doing certain things that are not even right or that are not optically permissible, and bringing that to the purview of people to see. And then you see the fights in the comment section where somebody is asking, why are you posting this? What's your business with this? Is this what you should be posting? And they become so vehemently violent about it. It's my page.
Defensive.
That's the word. It's my page. It's my business. It's my page. It's my business. Now, can you highlight some of the negative effects that this has on the church, optically, and maybe as a church, with respect to how others think some things are permissible when they're actually not?
Okay, so let me respond to the first point that you made. You talked about a mass.
Yes.
So I believe that we have a couple of them in the Celestial Church.
Yes.
Perhaps the most sacred that I may not advise anybody to put out probably will be the Amisa.
Yes.
But again, while I may not put that out, nothing stops me as a blogger if I mean well for the church, to not do a session where I would have done research, gathered a lot of knowledge, and talk about why we do the Amisa.
Okay.
And bring the biblical reference to it.
Okay.
So that people understand why we do Amisa.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
From a
And
better point
and
of
we say,
view.
okay, how many candles have been lit at the Amisa? 99. What do those 99 candles reflect? Why don't we bring a dead corpse into the church?
Okay.
Yada, 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 yada.
Yes.
Without practically taking my device into the experience of the Amisa service or the Amisa mass. So that's one. On the other hand, if you look at most of these guys you are talking about, can you promote what you have very little knowledge of?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. So you cannot promote what you have very little knowledge of. Some of them don't even know what the collection pouch is called. The collection pouch is called. They don't know. Do you know? Do you get? So
You mean the Pajaspa?
Pajaspa. They don't even ask them why there are 7 candles in the water for a naming ceremony. They don't know. So, and look at a social shift or a mental shift that has also happened in the church. We've gone from highly spiritual back in, say what, 20, 30, 40 years ago to
very mundane.
To very social today.
Yes.
Very, very social today. So again, the same media you're trying to tackle is called what? Social media. It thrives on content that are centered around social lifestyle. So you will see those guys around harvest, church service, choir performance, what is in vogue, I want to feel among, my friend is beautiful, I want to show myself, yada, yada, yada. But you will not see them consciously tell you that, oh, a miracle happened in my church today, and I captured it, and perhaps not even show the entire experience of that, talk about it and reference it to what God does for the church and use that to drive positive message for the church. No, let me go back to what I wanted to start with. About 20 years ago, I had friends that would tell you that the reason why they would not join Celestial Church is because they were told that Papa Shofa's leg was
long.
6 feet plus long.
Yes.
Just his leg.
Just his feet. His feet.
His feet.
That's why we
Okay.
don't wear shoes.
Okay.
People still had that opinion in
Was-
the 90s. People had that opinion in the early 2000s.
And you'll be surprised that there are some people till now who still
Till
believe
now.
it.
Yeah. And guess what? You have, at least, though limited, you have content around him, videos of him walking, videos of him in the altar, videos
Everywhere.
of him sermonizing, videos of him in the church. And Baba, did you see leg shoot out from under the robe? But again, these guys you're talking about, like I said from the beginning, they cannot sell what they don't know. They are all just lashing on to the new energy in the church, which is the social energy. They are not strategic about the positioning. Okay, what do I want? What's the difference between, and I don't want to, sorry if I mention names, what's the difference between Real Celestial and with the CCC?
CCC Unite.
What's the
Celestial
difference? What do they stand for?
Generation.
What is the difference?
Mm.
Why should I follow this one and follow this one and follow this one and follow this?
I think the major difference within this spectrum of blogs is just that some are more calculated with their posts than others. Some don't care. Some will come and ask you, ladies, when you are in your period, does the Holy Spirit still follow you? Come and tell us your experience.
I feel like they have different ideologies peculiar
while
to them.
there are some who are, I would say, more aloof, more reserved, more cautious of what they
Yes,
post.
yes.
So it's a large spectrum, and that's why I say if there is no body or administration that calls them and lets them know that, look,
Regulates.
this is the image, just like you said earlier on, this is the image that we ought to project so that the church is in good light, not just internally.
Let me interject for 1 second. It took a few audacious global bloggers to start blogging perhaps negatively about Dubai. I'm going out of the church now.
Yes,
It took them,
yes.
it took a lot of audacious boldness and knowing fully well that if I do this and perhaps the Dubai authorities find my post, they mark my face, they know my name, chances are that I may never
enter into the
enter into
UAE.
the UAE again.
Yes.
So you are doing that and you know that your entry privilege into the UAE is pretty much, you have sacrificed it. But you
Yes.
probably want to show, when the king of Dubai had an issue with one of his daughters,
Yeah.
it was but they are very intentional because what they are selling is not oil. They're
It's
selling
image.
travel,
Yes. Tourism.
image. You get what I'm saying? So for us as Celestial Church, the bloggers are the second layer of the issue. The first layer of the issue is church leadership.
Mm.
Church leadership. So if you say today that we're taking a bold step, over the next 10 years, we want to rewrite a lot of wrongs. We want to normalize a lot of abnormalities. You take a very audacious step towards it. You be very strategic towards it. And you define your position that you want to take. The apostolic is apostolic. Anglican is Anglican. Methodist is Methodist. Don't lie to yourself. We're a spiritual church. Now, start to tell your spiritual story from where you want to tell it.
Correct.
Now, is this to say that other churches are not spiritual churches?
So every spirituality, the level of spirituality differs. So the Celestial Church will tell you that Papa Shofa said the Celestial Church, any Celestial Church sanctuary is a palace.
Yes.
And the palace because you have an altar that has 7 candlesticks burning on it. Those 7 candlesticks represent the 7 spirits of God.
Yeah.
So God sits in the celestial altar as it was given to them in the days of the Israelites, the inner altar and the outer altar, yada, 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 yada.
The Holy of Holies.
Yes, holies of holies. So they will tell you that a lot of, that's why Abba will tell you that a mini joy, meaning that in those early days, they had a lot of contact, reference, leadership, push from the spiritual end of things. But we've shifted away from that now. So it's not like saying other churches are not spiritual per se. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if we're audacious enough to own that positioning, and that is what we want to promote, then we'll go ahead. I've not even started talking about some of the audacious things that some of these boys, some of these bloggers do.
I think we'll do that in the next section.
The
the Celestial Perspective Podcast, bringing you a fresh perspective on the Celestial Church of Christ.
Why should we conclude that the optics is very important? Because some people will say, if we're focusing on the optics and how people view the church, then it means that we're just rubbing powder on a face that is already dilapidated, or like the women will say, a makeover session on a rot. So it's almost as if we're just superficially, covering our problems or rot and letting people see a good light. Where does it start? Does it start from within or without?
The first thing is the way you package your market is how people buy it from you. That's
Okay.
the first step. So as a
What's
church,
the market in this case?
our church, the image of our church to everybody out there, the image of our church to whoever wants to come in line with what we do in our church.
Okay, does that amount to, or does that mean or equal to covering?
We are
the
not covering our
wrongs?
mess. We are not covering our rots.
Okay.
But one way or the other, we have to be very, very sincere with ourselves that in some cases, there are something that happen within our church that should stay in our church.
Now,
But don't you think that this exposures, this exposures by blogs, don't you think it will contribute to the improvement of the church?
It will contribute to the degrading of the church.
The
That is just
grading.
it. Yes.
So
that
there's
is
no
just the truth.
good in this post.
We have few of them that do the good side. Let's be sincere with ourselves as Celestians now.
But do you think there will be an improvement?
We have to work for an improvement because the truth of the matter is majority of these blogs we are talking about do mainly copy and paste.
So
It is
are
what-
you okay? I think the direct question should be: are you in support of blogs,
I don't
celestial
support- I don't
blogs?
support blogs.
How about you, Emo?
I support them.
You support blogs?
I support them, but
And
I just
I'll give you the reason why I said I don't support blogs. Yeah, it is very, very important we have a section or a set of people that bring out and sell out our church in the right image.
Mm,
But in the case of our church, we don't have a control over it.
okay.
I can wake up tomorrow and say, because I'm a photographer and I want people to see what I do, I come out and say I am Celeste Sazi.
Okay.
Nobody will check me because
Or
there's no
Sazi
copyright.
photography.
Sazi photography. Nobody will check me because there's nobody regulating blogs in the church. Like Emo said earlier, check the Redeemed Church. Probably just 2 pages or 3 of at most.
But do you think there are people regulating reading blogs, or we just have
This is
excesses
not-
as a
Dove-
whole?
Okay. Why don't we have
Dove Media regulates media. on
Everything.
behalf
now,
of
Emo? Let me
us as a
ask you.
church.
Let me ask you.
Okay.
Why don't we have RCCG? We in the RCCG.
RCCG
or
Unite.
RCCG Generation or
Because they are
RCCG
regulated.
Unite.
That's because they are
But we have
regulated.
Celestial Generation, Celestial Unite. We in the CCC.
That is
Why?
What,
What
that
is it?
is
What
we
sets
are
the difference?
saying. That's what we are saying. These people have regulations that guide their bodies. But in the case of our church, this is absent. That is why anybody will just wake up any day and say, I am starting a blog.
But to even begin
Okay,
with,
if I
does
start-
the church
if I
have
start
any
we in the-
official blog? As the case may be,
CCC
or a
Worldwide.
page.
CCC Worldwide.
Let's
I'm not aware.
Let's
Yeah,
finish.
yeah.
Let's finish. Let's
It's
finish.
part of
Let's
it.
finish one thought before we
Okay,
dive
okay,
into
okay.
the other. What stops me from starting we in the RCCG tomorrow?
Because you'll be checked.
Who will check me?
The church body, the body in charge of media.
Are you
will know you?
affirmative? Are you affirmative about this,
Yeah, I am
or
sure.
you're just speculating?
I'm not speculating, I am sure.
What do you
How
think
do they
about
know you? It's
that,
a phone, social media,
Emma?
free.
What do you think about that?
One way or the
Emo.
other,
If I
because it's the
start
church.
we in the RCCG tomorrow, who will stop me?
okay. When we filmed Olushola documentary,
Yes.
we had filmed it, we had edited it, it was good to go. We had printed IVs for the
That was what's the name of your body?
Celestial
CMT.
Media Team. Voluntary
CMT.
guys. Voluntary media guys who just come together, do work, media work for the church. We go to events, we go to Imeko, do different things. So we said, okay, you know what? Our positioning should be, let's start to create stories
Mm.
around some of the interesting
Testimonies.
historical testimonies of the church. We filmed Olushola. By the way, we have a bragging right. The only sister of the dead Mama Olushola.
Is she dead?
Yes.
Yes.
No,
Okay.
no, no, no.
Mr.
The only sister of the then dead Mama Olushola.
Okay.
Very
Who
good.
came back to
can
life?
tell
Who came back
you,
to
who
life.
came back to life by the power of Jesus
By
Christ.
who?
Who
Through
ca-
whom?
Two pastor
Through
founders, two
SBJ.
Baba Shofa.
Okay.
Who can tell you the story of how it happened from death to resurrection?
Yes.
Okay.
Passed on, as passed on.
Okay.
And perhaps we're the last set of people that interviewed her.
Ha.
Yes.
So now
Her name
you
is
have,
Mike Padiola.
you have
Please let's not
first-hand
forget the question.
information.
The question is, what stops
It's
me?
going there.
going
It's going there.
We're
No, I'm
No,
going
we're
there. I'm
just
going
trying
to
to
go there. I'm going to go there.
clarify
I'm going to go there.
things.
All right.
When we finished that and the church saw, when I say the church, maybe not the church as Celestial Church of Christ, some elements in the church saw that the buzz around that
I know
particular
the
content,
struggle. I know the struggle firsthand.
that particular content was generating some underground hits
Buzz.
and could bring relevance to perhaps the voluntary body
Mm.
and make it relevant.
Mm.
They did whatever they want. They wrote to us. The church wrote to us.
To CMT.
Yes.
To
Okay.
Celestial Media Team.
And they said we should not go ahead with that premiere.
Precluding you from going ahead.
Yes.
In what, in a good way or in
Did
do they mean
now,
well?
Did they see?
or...
Did they
that
see?
letter, that letter didn't mean well.
Did they see the material?
Okay.
Did they see the material before saying that this material shouldn't go public?
No, they didn't. We approached them. We
I feel
sat.
like it's something that will project the church in a good light. So why do
So
you
I'm trying to
think?
go back to what is the
Okay.
question.
Okay.
So they wrote to us. Whether they did it right or they did it wrong, they prevented Olushola from seeing light of day. At least the way we wanted it to.
Olushola did documentary.
The documentary to see
Okay.
light of day. So we had to, after a bit of time, we took it upon ourselves. Okay, you know what? Let's just put our own YouTube. Anybody that wants to see it can go there to see it.
Where
But
were
that
you
was-
intending to put it before?
We wanted to hold a premiere. We printed 300 invitations
Okay, clear.
in the church.
Okay.
They told us to stop the premiere. That Olushola documentary didn't go out. We're not able to tell that story the way we wanted to tell it. So now, if that effort, whether from the institution or by some elements of the institution, could have bettered that action. The same thing, imagine now stepping into a more regulated, well-structured institution like the RCCG.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment you say, we are RCCG, you have one follower, nobody gives a hoot. You have 10 followers. By the time you have your 100 follower, and you post something that has to do with Lekki Adeboye,
Somebody sends you a DM.
somebody sees you.
True.
And if you get on the bad side of Lekki Adeboye, perhaps the attention of director of media will be called to it.
Protocol.
The attention of director of
Sorry,
media
like-
will be called to it.
Director
Have
of
you-
Media of RCCG.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or perhaps some of the coordinators of the Dove Media team
Yes.
will be called to it. At the moment that happens, they begin to keep an eye on you.
Mhm.
Before you know it, you will get an email. Email, letter, DM, phone call, you get an email.
Email
Mm.
to work.
To bring
For
down
So
the
your
either
church.
to be
No.
co-opted,
Okay.
swallowed entirely, or they will even tell you that the position of the church is that
to bring
they
down.
do not want to have any sort of representation in the social media space outside of A, B, C, D
Okay.
channels or
Which
platforms.
means that this thing is actually easier than we perceive it to be.
That's why I said initially. Do you want to take the approach of Moroyin or Iwokubodo?
Water.
RCCG, I believe, would take the approach of Iwokubodo.
Yes.
Okay, let me ask Tomwa this question. Do you think the people that are supposedly meant to be the regulation body of these media teams, do you think they are well exposed enough to see the need to the leadership? Do you think
Leadership of the media
there are savvy youths there that know what to do concerning this?
Yoruba says, Aja wo ilo mo ewore rele ile.
This
Okay,
proverb is coming again.
It's
It's
coming
coming
again.
But in the case of our church, it's a sorry case, yeah? Because even those that are in charge of the affair of the media team, or should I say regulating the media team, probably have past experience because they work past a part or something, but they cannot work with this generation that we find ourselves.
Okay, you're trying
They
to
cannot-
say there's
they cannot-
a new wave.
There's a new wave. We are in the Gen Z generation.
Okay.
You cannot come to me now and tell me that, okay, Papa Sokwe, and you want me to take it like that. We're in a generation now that our youths see the light in a different way. So if you want to lead a team that would regulate, if you want to lead a team that will call youth to understanding of where they are missing their part, you need somebody that can relate with them.
Do you think it will work that way? Or do you think we should go
It will work that way.
military?
Not military. Let's be sincere, yeah.
Do
in
we
a
mean
Emo, do you agree?
do we mean military in the actual context of the word, or
no, like military,
no,
like
military
order.
coercing
Okay,
everyone and
figuratively.
order.
So if we step out of line again,
Mm,
we're a church where we have functions. Even from leadership, you already
okay.
have disintegration.
Okay. You're trying to say the leadership of the church
You
is
already
not
have disintegration.
one.
So I can wake up today and say,
it isn't
God has asked me to
centric?
build a church.
Yes.
You know,
Okay, that's true.
Jesu me parish.
Mm,
And
And then I'll have a media team.
I choose whatever function I want to hide under
mm.
to push my agenda.
Sir,
Forgetting
please,
that-
sorry.
Yeah.
By functions, do you mean we have multiple
We
multiple
do.
pastors?
I'm saying it categorically in capital letter. We
Multiple
have different factions
pastors.
in the church. We have different pastors, and we know we don't need to lie to each
Is
other
that
about
novel information to you?
Okay. I just want to confirm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I get
And you've seen people hide under that lapse
To
okay.
perpetrate all
to
forms of
perpetrate
vices.
all sort of agenda that they have.
Okay.
Because they also tell you that, okay, again, a young shepherd who is in vibe, who is in vogue, like 2-3 years ago, the
Mm.
church, people had raised dust over his conduct and had asked the authorities to go and challenge him.
Okay. I know that story.
But the fact remains that
Okay,
if
I
you
know
go
that
and
story.
challenge him,
I know that
are you
story.
challenging him because you contributed to the building of his church? Or you're challenging him because he carries an identity that you own, which is what you could have challenged him over.
Okay.
To say, okay, guy, we're not interested in your building, keep your building, keep your. But we own the hymn book.
We own the
We
candles.
own the
candles.
rainbow with the logo, crown, eyes, whatever. We own
The name.
with the name. We own the pajaspa. We own the order of service.
It's not yours.
We own the blue and yellow cape. Give it. And once you take all those elements out, what is left? It's back. It's
normal
total
building.
conversion from a church
So a
to
building.
an event to an event
Business
center.
center.
So the moment if our church is able to as acquire that type of power, now you now bring it to the next level. Who are the guys who will be custodian of that type of
that power.
There are people who work in the media space. A friend of ours who passed on, about 1-2 years ago, did that struggle. We saw him struggle. So it's not a case of Aja Ewuru and Ikenekon Ewuru now. It's the reality of the fact that as a church, first and foremost,
Fundamentally.
are we interested in our impression, public impression? If we're interested in our public impression, if you want to know that Celestial Church is an institution where solid people administer, sue Celestial Church of Christ and Celestial Church of Christ to court.
Then
you will
you
see
know
people come out.
that we are a body.
Do you get what I'm saying? But with that same people that come out, put them in this kind of conversation that we're having now about media. Go call me. They live.
Sir, aside your voluntary media team, do we have a celestial media team?
That I know of, no.
Okay. You can
No.
go
So
on.
let me come back to the letter that was written to CMT,
Okay.
precluding CMT from releasing the documentary that was painstakingly recorded, produced, post-produced, and was being readied for release. What was the reason that the body or the board or the administration gave? What was the reason that they gave that they thought that it was right for them to make sure that Olushola doesn't see the light of day?
All right. You want me to read through that letter the way they wrote it? Or you want me to...
Please, sir.
yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, I don't have it here, but if I can remember some lines.
Okay.
It wasn't a well-worded corporate correspondence.
Are you trying to say it was quack?
It wasn't a well-worded one. Let me leave
Okay.
that.
Let's leave it.
All right.
Let's leave it.
Let's
at
leave it that
It was a bit vindictive.
Okay.
Okay.
It was a bit vindictive. Because like I said to you, a certain elements in the church out of, again, structure. Who perhaps will tell you that the pastor has given me a letter. I'm the media, something to the pastor. Maybe the pastor's brother. Maybe the pastor's in-law. Maybe the pastor's loyalist, one guy that used to have. So different people like that knew that the moment and the energy, the vibe that CMT carried at that time was very hot. And, they knew that we came to K2 Harvest, National Quarter Harvest, with 300 invites, and we shared everything. We gave it to all the who is who's. We're going to use the National Headquarters at Makoko. Projector screen, everything, lecture before the documentary.
What year was this?
2021.
Okay.
So there was no response, so to say, from the institution. It was more about a few people who felt threatened, who now use the umbrella of the church to address us. They know that once they do that, we'll drop it. Not like we couldn't drag it, but we'll drop it. And the reason was not far-fetched from the fact that some of the ones they said verbally, apart from what they wrote in the letter, was that, we are telling a story that is a property of Oshofa. That the Olushola story is an asset of the church. That the church number one, does not identify with us. We wrote clearly in our introductory letter to the church, to the pastor, inviting him, that we are a voluntary body of just media professionals and guys in the church who have come together to contribute, bring our equipment. Nobody was getting paid. Nobody was funding anybody. We're doing a voluntary. Okay, let's start to tell interesting stories about the church.
But didn't you think there should have been permission before embarking?
So I won't discredit that question.
Okay.
Perhaps there should have been.
Okay.
But again, I believe that I will not write a biopic. I will not try to produce a biopic of the pastor founder without the Oshofa family's consent first. Or a biopic of Babada without the Badas
Family.
So to write or create a story around the testimony called Olushola, the first thing was to get the Olushola family consent, which was what we got. After we had filmed it, before releasing, we wrote to the pastor and even said in the letter that we were open to a private viewing to show them what we had done. Yes, just for them to see if they had any issues with some of the statements being made or facts being portrayed, we could take them out. But, the response that came back, sadly again, porous structure, was a few people who are perhaps around corridors of power used the umbrella of power to write back to us because they wanted to fight that mission to protect their own standing that they had in the church at that particular time. So no cogent reason per se. I remember we had a physical meeting for over an hour. The pastor's PA sat to my left. I sat here. The present-day admin guy in the pastor's office sat to my right. The late Akeju wasn't there. One or two other guys sat in front. It was a meeting for close to 2 hours. Tried to show them why they should let that thing fly, even support it. But we experienced a very tough resistance. So like I said, it was not an issue or a challenge of the church itself. It was just a few elements there. Now, what they could have rallied around in 2020 and perhaps leverage that platform to help tame, that dragon has grown wild now. And the power to tame it now doesn't exist anymore.
Doesn't exist or is harder
I don't
to
think
acquire.
I don't think it does.
Okay, tell me one quick one. As a member of the founding family of this fold, are you not?
Okay, I am.
It's your face. I don't understand.
Okay.
As a member of the founding family of this great fold, what do you think about the resistance of the church leadership?
Concerning the resistance of the church leadership, I don't know. I was not a part of the meeting. Do I know about all that happened then?
Okay.
But one way or the other, I believe the case in our church now is, like I told somebody earlier, is a case of, I'm a part of the family, found the family, but we have to be sincere with ourselves most times. It's a case of me having someone in power and using that person to get what I want. So I guess that was clearly what happened with
Now,
them.
let's be blunt here. Is there a body who might feel threatened if CMT thrives? This podcast has no connection whatsoever with CMT. As a matter of fact, you know. So, but you are a face of CMT, and so we can direct these questions to you. Is there anybody in the church that can feel undermined if CMT thrives?
So 2019, I would boldly tell you that 95% of who you call bloggers today were all members of CMT. CMT stemmed off building a community of media volunteers that worked at the 2018 Imeko convocation. There had been, of course, experiences where the church will ask media guys to come together from previous convocation, but it became very harmonized in 2018.
So we're somehow getting to the root of this.
Yeah, it was harmonized in 2018. And in 2019, we created Celestial Media Team out of a WhatsApp community.
Is there sort of screening?
Well, yes, I would say so. Yes.
Okay.
It was even tough in 2018. I remember some of them can tell. Even the K2 guys will tell you. They had to go through me to come in.
So the should I say the scattering of this body has been what has led to a myriad of blogs that we have now and a myriad
absolutely.
Is the body
media
scattered?
pages.
Well, it's very watered down.
Why is that?
Very watered down, but not scattered. So this is off again the topic, but let me quickly share it. If you want to also battle bloggers, you have to battle another very interesting aspect, what is the gain value for them doing what they're doing?
Exactly.
What's the gain value? So the gospel that I fought for in the early days of CMT was the heart of volunteering. The art of volunteering. And, sadly, internally, we had a lot of rumbles. Some people wanted us to take a position to be like an extended media arm of the church, where if the church creates media content, they pass to us, we just distribute. So it's like saying you're creating NANS, News Agency of Nigeria.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And so I have bloggers at my disposal who I just...
Yeah. Or NUJ, Nigerian Journal Journalists. So you pass information to NUJ distributes to
disseminates.
journalists. That was the type of positioning we wanted to have at that time. Because a lot of these guys were with the group.
Hence the coalition.
Yes, the coalition.
Okay.
Do you get my point?
Yeah.
So immediately, internally, we started to unbundle internally because the position that, of course, one of the, one of the founding members as well wanted a different position. Oh, let's be an extended media arm to the church and particularly the pastor's office. My position at that time was different. I said no. And I said that because I know for a fact that a lot of political manipulation because of the state of the church would come from that desk. And I wouldn't want to be a part of it. I would rather be interested in capturing what is positive about Celestial Church of Christ, putting that out. If any good thing comes out of that quota or that office or that desk, we will promote it. The first one we did, I can remember very well. Ishem can remember. There was this short Baba that was harassed to have said somebody died in his church. One celestial shepherd, Fanny Modu or Fanny Moku or something. Short.
What year was this?
2019. 2019 or 2019. There was a case built against him in his church. CMT were the one that wrote the disclaimer, the church disclaimer against him. And we created the flyer, and that flyer went viral. Even the Oshofas adopted it, and they were using it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We were the first to move swiftly in regard to that is case that would have been another issue for the church to start to just see we have Ibio Yemi and all these other guys now. Uh-huh. We were the first to address it. We created a flyer in that regard, and the church, everybody accepted it and started moving on with it. So to answer your question, yes, there were individuals in the church who most definitely, still today, still feel very threatened. Because again, like I say everywhere I go, Celestial Church of Christ has thousands of holes.
Of what?
Holes. Iwo.
Okay.
So I believe that anybody that means good for this church, just take one hole and be patching it. Be patching it. What we're doing now is one hole.
Yes, sir.
What we're doing now is one hole. Rewriting, remodeling the narrative.
I think this is a good point to go on a break. We'll be back shortly.
See you soon.
The Celestial Perspective Podcast, bringing you a fresh perspective on the Celestial Church of Christ.
Welcome back to the Celestial Perspective Podcast. And at this point, talking about CCC blogs and their excesses, we want to narrow down this discussion and talk about certain specific things. Now, there was an incident, I think, was it last year, whereby a particular journalist, Fisaya Shoyombo, did a documentary, so to speak, on celestial prophets, and this was a very indicting documentary. It was an indicting release, and it really shook a lot of people in the fold. I wouldn't say it shook the church as a body, but it shook a lot of people in the fold. And we found that it was even celestial blogs that were amplifying or posting and reposting excerpts from this documentary, to the point where it became a very, very pervasive or ubiquitous work, that it was everywhere. Now, won't we say that is anti-productive, so to speak, when celestial blogs post ills and vices, that accentuate our bad optics in the public view?
Okay. So the first, there are two ways to look at it. The credibility of the journalist that did the report.
Yes.
And the question around what you call celestial blogs.
Yes.
Are they truly blogs for the celestial church?
Nominally, well.
Or they are just blogs owned by individuals who are members
Yes,
of the church?
Yes.
So that's distinctive. If you say celestial blogs, that means you have 10 blogs that cover different sphere of the celestial church
Yes.
that are very vested in the image of the celestial church.
Yes.
That's a celestial blog.
Yes.
Now, a blog owned by a member of the church
Yes.
who is an unbaked journalist, blogger, media person,
Yes.
who just wants to
Get
lash
traffic.
on to everything that's available because the end goal is followership. The end goal is
Traffic.
relevance, not even traffic. Because the question you ask yourself is this. At the presentation I did some weeks ago, I said Celestial Church is a market in its own right. If you own a product today and you can successfully sell it to Celestians, you are already in business. So all of them that are doing blogging makes revenue.
Okay, because I was about to ask you that what incentivizes this
So
private bloggers?
that's the bottom line that we're trying to get to.
revenue.
So what is the value drive for them?
Yes.
Relevance, followership, this,
Money.
that. Not even, where's the money? Who is the richest blogger among all of them? Who? Where's the money?
Is there money made from blogging?
They make peanuts.
But they make money.
I won't say no. They make
Okay.
peanuts.
Okay.
Do you get? So now, going to the Show story, the credibility of the journalist. Now, if you have what you call celestial blogs, what they now do is you take the release from that journalist, you dissect it. You now do something called crisis management in PR. Not only just quickly do a press release or do a press conference. No. You identify the shades
Yes.
that were thrown at you.
Yes.
And how do you address those shades and convert bad publicity to good publicity?
Yes.
Shoyombo exposed the gray sides of our prophetic ministry.
Yes.
How many of these celestial bloggers have gone back to the same Ketu to record or capture the Esin Woli, to record or capture the Ishono, to record or capture the naming ceremony where the prophet is talking about a 7-day-old baby and prophesying about 20 years ahead of that baby?
Which are the narratives
Are the narratives that can
project.
negate what or address what a credible journalist put out there.
Uh-huh.
So build that around. Imagine if all of them come together today and say, guys, for the next 1 quarter, we want to trend SBG or Shofa. And
There will be a shift.
make an audacious statement to say that is the most powerful prophet that came out of Africa in the 19th century.
There'll
And
be-
create a ground-shaking dialogue.
Even if people don't agree with
Very
it, there will
correct.
be discussions
There will be-
around
Yes.
it.
Discussions
Everyone
around
wants to
it.
talk about
Yeah.
it.
And
That's
people will know
publicity.
things
Yeah.
that they didn't know before about the founder.
Yes.
And
And
will
about the
see-
church.
You will even see. So Greta Tomorrow did a documentary some years ago, and I remember that Baba went to interview a man that used to be a member of Osapa London, former police officer Ire. He's now a Pentecostal pastor, but he spoke very highly of his time in Celestial Church and of the pastor
Where's
family.
the video?
Where is
Where's
that
the
video?
evidence? We don't
Where are
see
videos
that.
like that?
So,
Now you can
so when you say celestial
Video is
bloggers
available.
and bloggers within the church, you have to distinguish it.
Distinguish.
Now, let me ask you a question. Is church marketing and demarketing a real thing? Are they real things?
Yes, they
Church
are.
marketing, church demarketing. Because I find that a lot of people leverage on the robustness of the celestial audience or the celestial body, and they use this to even further their own, how do I put it?
Individual
presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, presence.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Let me be very frank with you. There are a lot of people who didn't know Pastor Ibieme before
Before the incident.
Yeah.
what happened a
That's
couple of
true.
weeks
Yeah.
ago.
That's true.
And now, people who didn't know him, even within the fold, now know him. So is it really a thing, demarketing other churches in order to become marketable, or marketing yourself? is there even a thing called church marketing or demarketing?
It's not new. You want to take that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would like to take that. That is very, very true. There is church marketing and church demarketing. And that is the reason why you will see a lot of us out there try to pick down on some other organizations just to raise ourselves up. In the case of Ibiyomi, I took a case study into him. I realized at the time he was a member of the church.
Was he a member of
Was he a
CCC?
member of
CCC, yeah.
CCC? What evidence?
I can't say it is not so credible, but I got this from a shepherd in Port Harcourt.
That
who
you
happens-
was a
yeah,
member.
That they
Okay.
knew 101.
Okay.
And what I realized is, one way or the other, everybody knows what we carry as a church, audience-wise. Everybody knows anything that comes out concerning our church. Everybody wants to jump on it, and everybody wants to share it.
Then he was making general statements like, I know them. I was once with
I was
them.
once with them.
Before
But did you
I
mention
became
the
born
Celestial
again.
Church of Christ, or you just said white garment churches?
Oh,
Guys, let's also go strategic.
okay.
Before synagogue died,
Yes.
he never for one day
Spoke in.
identified himself with
Celestial.
Celestial Church.
Yes.
Yes.
But I think the first time his wife got on the
Yeah,
pulpit,
she sang his best song.
first or second time,
Yes.
Big book
and
Bible.
she was talking about his life. And she said,
His best song.
in the morning he prays, and he has 2 songs that he sings in the morning.
Yes.
Mm.
Baba, Aniwa,
Wakati.
Gijona Ifele,
Who are we talking about here?
TB Joshua.
TB Joshua.
Okay, to be clear.
And it is also rumored from unconfirmed, from sources, but yet to be confirmed. I would like to actually confirm that at some point, that he also left Celestial Church of Christ as a prophet in Alimosho. So imagine if our bloggers are very intentional about some of these
the church.
cold media wars and say, okay, you know what? We will not respond to Ibioye.
Or make a research.
We will go and identify Pentecostal pastors that were born in this church
And still speak highly of this church.
and speak about them, and perhaps even go and dig up perhaps their parents, what brought their parents to Celestial Church, and the experiences their parents had with the founding fathers of this church.
So are you trying to say the media guys are going the easy route? Are you trying to say they're not doing the hard work that is behind media as
They
a
are
whole?
Celestial bloggers, like I just told you guys.
Okay.
And there are personal
bloggers
bloggers.
born in the church.
Yes.
Okay, bloggers born in the
Celestial
church. Do you think they are
bloggers.
lazy bloggers? They just want to. They just want ready information, first-hand available
You cannot
information.
promote what you don't know. You cannot promote what you are not passionate about.
Yes.
True.
You get what I'm saying? You can alert some of them and say they just want to be hip. They are young guys, fresh blood. And some of them are not relatively young. They're just people that, just like some of our fathers, take their church relevance away from them and they are dead.
Mm.
So they will fight you for that parochial position they hold. Because that's the only... They spend 4 days in the church, 3 days at home. You get what I'm saying? So some of these guys are already towing that
path.
name.
That line.
I even heard that somebody called himself a social media shepherd.
Social media separate.
Yes, I
Who's
think
that?
he's one of the bloggers. Said that he's a social media shepherd, and he wears. The person who came earlier was talking about that.
And he wears what?
He wears a shepherd's regalia.
Without an anointment.
He has an online
See,
church.
see, guys. Because guess what? COVID changed everything.
Yes.
2020,
Correct.
the world flipped
Yes.
on its head.
Yes.
Nothing stops a shepherd from saying, okay, I want to perhaps create
A mobile.
a social media or a digital church. Let me use the word digital church. And right there with you in the church, with a few members, you set up this type of setup. And people from all over the world can follow your worship, listen to your sermon, follow your
Very correct.
pray with you.
The world is evolving.
I think my parish thrives on that.
How did we get to know of their choir?
Mm.
They were very audacious about it. They were very involved. They were very intentional. And see where it's
True.
gotten them.
Okay.
So the fact remains that if you go and ask, if you put, I know all of them. I know, I'll be wrong to say I know all of them. I know pretty much all of them.
Mm.
And when you ask them, when you talk to their conscience,
Mm.
what is the value? What is the gain for you guys?
What do
You realize that is for church relevance, money, perhaps just jumping on the bandwagon.
True.
Some of them in their personal lives are perhaps unemployed.
Hmm.
So they feel, at least if I'm not doing anything 9 to 5, Celestial Church of Christ is a big market for me.
I can just get on the internet.
And just do whatever. And
Okay.
again, when you move away from these bloggers, there are also individuals, as in the case of the last directorate of music, not directorate of music.
Yes.
A lot of people just wake up in their house, put their phone in their front, and start to do life and say they're addressing a church issue.
Mm.
Who made it?
I'm telling you, they addressed, people carried their
Topical
phones
issues.
and started addressing topical issues that involve the church.
Topical issues.
I mean, it's
I had to call into one of them, and I asked the person. I said, "Man, did you ever attend the Central Choir?" She said, "No." I said, "Do you even know the history of the Central Choir?" We filmed the documentary where Uncle Olu Ogunsanya sat with us. Your mom was involved in the documentary, and she told us how they started the Central Choir and debunked a lot of things that were falsely passed on to people about the Central Choir. That's not what we're here to discuss today.
All right.
So we're talking about, so imagine if those type of content that had been passionately, produced were given to these guys and they knew how to build. So let me move out of the church. There's Bella Ninja. There's Olori Supergirl. There are other blogs. If
Yeah.
you want beauty lifestyle,
Bella
you go
Ninja.
to Bella Ninja.
Yes.
Olori Supergirl is for everything in vogue, trendy, in mix of everything. When Linda came with, everybody knew what Linda came with, gossip.
Yes.
And gossip made money for her, made a way. So there are things that if these guys take time
To carve out their
calm down.
niche.
Celestial Church is a very large depository
True.
of content. Even our members, some of them have spent 30 years in this church. You don't even know 1/10 of the church.
Brother Tomowa, before we went on the short break, you said something. You blatantly said that you were not in support of Celestial Blogs. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. I believe you're an artist. You write.
Yes, I write.
What else do you do?
I do basically content writing.
Okay.
aside the
So don't you
video.
think these blogs have the power to help you create a larger audience for your brand?
As true as that might sound, yeah, they have the power to help build a larger audience, but I would have loved them to help me build that in the right context, in the sense that it is a body regulated by the church. The reason why I said I am not in support of Celestial Blog is because right now, let me ask you a question. Come out straight and tell me, give me 3 blogs that are directly supporting the church. I'll bring out the church in the right manner.
So do you mean all
mean-
blogs are against the church?
Majority. Listen now, I know of a blog now that if you check their post, it's a celestial blog. You will see, call this number for a shonor. Are you getting my point?
Promoting a prophet?
A prophet.
Okay.
There are better ways we can do that. That is one. You will see, for example, this David Biomo issue you were talking about. It was a copy and paste affair on majority of our blogs that should be doing counter effects on the story.
Mm.
So you don't expect me to associate with such blogs that are killing the image of what I stand for.
So I think a better way to put what you said was, or would be, that I do not support private or personal blogs that are instituted by members of the church. With the name
Of
the church.
But I'd still like to counter that, because
So we have-
if you had just one Celestial page, just one blog, how do you then market yourself through that one? Because not everybody can go on RCCPR and just post, or not everyone can go on that one single page of the church to market their brands and all.
Why should a church brand market? Why should a church brand market individual brands
individual brands.
in the first place?
So do you think bloggers should stop marketing individual brands?
A blog that belongs to a church
Okay.
should
He
not
said he's
market.
against Celestial blogs in like generally. He's totally against them. So I'm trying to ask, don't they contribute to you in any way?
They do contribute.
Okay, so if you have an article, for instance, that is
it
tailored
has to do with the church.
or that has to do with the church,
Okay.
Mhm.
who is going to disseminate that article?
Like I said earlier, we have some few good ones. I might not have said my earlier submission in the right way, but we have some few good ones, and we know what they do. But
Mm.
even as Yoruba says, "Imike kere lo pa," I hope you understand what I mean.
Mm.
Majority of these people,
A little levels the whole
you
lump.
understand? Majority of these people are not selling out our church in the right manner. I don't want to mention them, but if I tell you as a Celestial now that mention 3 blogs that you know is doing well in this church, I am sure you'll mention. In respect to that, it does not make any sense when we are trying to build a building, we are trying to, like an architect trying to work on a building, and somebody within that system is trying to bring it down.
Mm.
That is why I said what I said.
So Emo, do you agree that there are good individual Celestian members blog that contribute positively to the image of the church?
So I'll still go back to my position where I stand and
Okay.
what I'm a very firm believer in. Go to the LCCG. They have a media establishment called Dove Media.
Correct.
Yes.
Well funded, very, very intentional. They're very intentional about it. The members know about it.
Mm.
So if the members want to hear authentic things from the pastor's office,
They
they
go to
listen
Dove
to
Media.
Dove Media. Some of them follow Dove Media on Twitter. They follow Dove Media on Facebook. And the guys, it's not part-time work.
Full time.
Paid.
Dove Media employs every type of media professional you need.
Mm.
They are on digital satellite. They are on
247.
DSTV.
Mm.
You can watch the Holy Ghost Congress
Intentionality.
from anywhere in the world. Just tune into Dove Media. So if the church has invested that much, who are you, blogger in your room with your
Phone.
5,000? You can have 500,000 followers. They can have 7,000 followers. They are the mouthpiece of the church, Dove Media.
Yes.
Nobody
Correct.
will care about you.
Mm.
Yes.
And if they now drag you, Joe.
So your solution, your solution is central.
Yeah,
It has to start from the head.
yeah.
It has to start from the head. No matter how we try to say this from A to Z, from morning to night,
starts
if,
from the
if
head.
it doesn't start from the head, you can affect so little, taking a problem from the surface. It starts from the very head.
Ola, let me chip in. When you talk about marketing and demarketing, there is a very gradual shift that's also happening. Some of the young people in the Pentecostal church who were born from the spiritual churches have started to gradually go back to the spiritual churches.
True.
What are the spiritual churches?
Celestial Church,
Okay.
CNS, Aladura churches.
Okay.
They have started to go back, especially when, there's a reality of life that happens, especially the ladies. When you start to hit a certain age in your life, certain things are not happening as you want, you have prayed the Pentecostal way, you remember your source.
Right.
One of your friends will tell you, Shono.
Mm.
And in 5 minutes, all the problems of your life would have been rendered in front of
I
you.
even think Ishono is more beneficial to foreign people because we don't even know what we have.
Because the foreigners know that in 5 minutes they can dial heaven.
Mm. But
And yet,
don't we also
it's
know
facts.
that? Can't we also leverage on that?
For us,
Or we are too used to.
we are too used
Don't
to
forget,
it.
please.
the power.
Don't forget your train of thoughts on
It's
the
going to
marketing
come
and
back.
the
You get what I'm
marketing.
saying?
Mm.
Now, they've seen a gradual exodus of some of the people they've built from Pentecost. These guys are coming back. And it's going to be more. Trust me.
In the coming days.
More.
Correct.
So, I don't see, for a Pastor Ibio Yemi, for example, I don't see what he was preaching that day, what part of the Bible he was preaching or discussing that day that warranted that conversation or that point of, Celestians putting destiny in
The
Shinar.
marketing.
In Shinar.
So do you
You
think
get-
it was a strategy?
It may not be intentional.
Okay.
It may not be intentional, but all of them, even include Baba Adeboye, had lashed out at Celestial
Yeah,
Church.
sure.
At some
one
He did?
point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even with the Jolapamo story, then
Mm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
But again, just like we were saying a couple of minutes prior to, the show, something just works for Celestial Church that you cannot
So unexplainable.
Cannot grasp.
explain. Instead of killing it, it's expanding. It's expanding. It's expanding. 10 years ago, Celestial Church was not in Turkey.
Mm.
The boys had to go there. Young boys, graduates from Ogun State University, and a couple other guys from all over the country had any money they created. Now they have 3 parishes or 2 parishes in Turkey.
So do you mean that this so-called defamation, as the case may be, do you think is adding to the value of the church?
Is adding to Nollywood, Yoruba Nollywood.
Okay.
Nobody intentionally went to tell anybody that when you are scripting this,
You select
the church sin should be
You
Celestial
select
Church.
church.
They will not use Redeemed Church.
But don't you think that's as a result of the uniform that we have?
No,
They just to show that, okay, they are
When they
Christians.
filmed Gang of Lagos, one, they wanted to portray the part of where
Christianity.
ìyá ẹ̀ ti gbàdúrà fún. Wọ́n ti ná gbogbo a child that we want to ṣe ọmọ kìnnì kan ní ṣe kó má ṣe kìnnì kan. They use Celestial Church. They use White Garment Church.
But is that not a misrepresentation?
A perfect one.
Okay. But do you think
And
it still is
In
benefiting?
Nollywood, they think they are doing us good.
Evil. or-
Ev- Okay,
good.
By showing you that when you have 2 wives, one is a witch, the other one is not a witch. When you want to
Deal with the witch.
deal with the
the
witch,
witch, go
you
to
take her to
Celestial
Celestial
Church.
Church. She will confess. When somebody runs mad at the tail end of a Yoruba film,
Emulous ele.
the Emulous
Church.
ele-
So do you
They
think it's
think
just a miracle church?
Subconsciously,
They
this is
think
it's a
injecting
miracle
certain
church.
thoughts in people that
Yes, yes, yes. Conk problem.
I remember this one. In 2017, I left Osapa, London in 2018. In 2017, neighbors who were next door neighbors to Osapa, London, who never came to anything Osapa, London did, including the very beautiful harvest they did, they always do, rather, brought their dead son to church.
Mm.
And
Why didn't they
tell
take
me he
him
was
to
brought back
another
to
church?
life.
If Shepherd Cole is watching this podcast at any particular point in time, he will testify to
Tell
what
me
I'm
he
saying.
was
I was
brought
dead.
back to life.
He wasn't brought back to life.
Hey.
But then that was a great
You know,
great thing
they
to think
brought
about.
I saw the boy.
Because there were other churches
dead
around.
Young boy. Young boy. He was laid in front of the church. You know, and prayers were made, different things were said, you know. And for me, the shepherd was in his room. He said, his living room, he said, Muiwa, wọ́n wá dán Ọlọ́run wò ni. Wọ́n wá gbàdúrà.
Correct.
Do you get what I'm saying? So for the shepherd to have gotten that level of spiritual understanding, to know that their intention was to test the church. Not intentional. They won't kill their son to test the church.
Correct.
But it was like a hope of last resort for them, not because they love the church, not because God will set your heart. Do you believe in the God of that mountain that you have come to?
Okay, my own parish, there's a church directly behind my parish. While growing up, I remember that people who had mental problems, who they brought to that church,
be transferred to Akoka,
would be transferred to my church. And under 3 to 7 days, that mad spirit would leave the person. And so it became like an outsourcing. They used to outsource madmen and mad women. So these things are realities that we know, but people need to know them too. People need to know them too. I remember somebody who was, jocularly saying that your ministry is word. If you want people to be delivered, take them to sell. After you deliver them, bring them back.
Exactly. People have those kind of ideologies.
It is simply because
what they stand for.
Over the years, for more than 20 years, that is what elements like social elements like Nollywood and the other elements have sold the
portrayed.
To the world.
Correct.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Even Olushola, we couldn't sell Olushola. We fought ourselves from selling Olushola.
Our own church.
That's a battle within.
We fought ourselves.
Within.
Olushola is alive.
Yeah, sure.
She's not dead yet.
She's not dead. She's a 90-something-year-old woman.
This was a 3-day-old dead body. 3 or 4.
Yeah, 3
and
days.
I feel like that
3
would have
days.
been a good publicity for them. That's like the only good thing.
Who already had... No, please, let's tell them, let them know. Because we might have non-celestial audience or
watching.
People who are in celestial who don't even know that this happened. She was dead for 3 days. She already had worms coming out of her body.
Yes.
And she was brought back to life by the pastor founder calling out her name.
He didn't even touch her.
He didn't touch her. He just called out her name, Olushola, and she said, Sir. This woman is still very much alive today. And a body, an independent body in the church who wanted to project this were precluded from doing that because of certain bureaucratic bottlenecks, like we call them
they wanted to own it.
In the corporate world.
So, Tom, do you think that the church is a miracle church, or do you think there are kingdom gospels? Do you think the church is strong, is sound in the word, or is just an intensive care center?
Nah, we have we have ministers that are sound in the world, but we should understand that in this church we have different ministries. We have the evangelists, we have the prophets, we have different ministries. So word-wise, grace-wise, we have it all in our church. It depends on what you are looking for and what you carry. If you want to see us from the miracle aspect, trust me, you will find miracle and get to tell it. If you want to listen to the word, we have seasoned ministers nowadays that when you listen to them, you would forget whatever you learned from the Pentecostal churches.
Before my co-host gives the closing remark, the 3 dimensions of the gospel are word, deed, and signs. So we cannot be deterred by the grace that God has poured upon us.
Right.
Ola, please, can I give my closing remark as
of course, you can.
What I
yes,
think these bloggers should focus on?
Okay.
Quickly.
So what do you think?
Number one, all of them should go and become selfless.
Service.
Selfless first. Number 2, the same amount of energy you put into looking for followers, put that same amount of energy into knowing having enough knowledge about the product that you say you are promoting.
Products here, you
Two.
mean?
The
Celestial
church.
Church of Christ is the
Yes.
product.
Okay.
Knowledge. Become the reference point. The church as an institution does not have a well-structured, a well-oiled media setup. So for now, these guys are the unofficial face of the church. So become more intentional about telling the right stories about the church. Do you get what I'm saying?
Correct.
People will tell you tomorrow that, I'm sleeping my alone lost. Because recently we started developing another trend where yellow-skinned women, black-skinned women dress up on Sunday. They do TikTok. They do all of this. They put Ebenezeri behind their video or any other. You know what I'm saying? And people started to see a celestialized version of what you see on TikTok.
Yes.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And no blogger is showing me why the incense goes before the choir, before the congregation. No celestial blogger is showing me or is talking about why female members don't go into the church
The
when
altar.
they're in their circle.
Okay.
Or when they don't even go into the altar with biblical references. None of them is bold and audacious enough to suffer to make a statement and say, Reverend S.B. Joshua was the biggest prophet that came out of Africa in the 19th century. But
20th century.
20th century. But you'll be very shallow to make that kind of statement without facts.
Yes.
Strong facts. Because something happened or is gradually happening in the CAC fold. They've become very intentional about the man called Joseph Ayo Babalola.
He doesn't even have bad publicity. He doesn't have videos.
He cannot have bad publicity. Because even the fathers that Babalola were just died, that is one of the last set of the disciples that worked with him. Those men will curse you. They are raw. They don't care about Instagram. It's the children that are putting them on those pages. They will curse you.
will let you know, say, Instagram got loving shit.
You get my point? So, but guess what? You would find people who have taken camera and gone to all the different points where Joseph Babalola encountered God. His two living daughters have spoken. They've done 2-hour documentaries on YouTube talking about their father. And perhaps even debunking a very aging myth or lie that their mother was a witch. It was a known theory at one time that Joseph Babalola's wife was a witch that frustrated his ministry. The second to the last daughter sat down with a journalist, a pastor in the ministry, and spoke to that man for 2 hours about the day-to-day life of the Babalola family.
We're running on extra time.
And even told them that my father is not Ayodele. My father is Joseph Ayo Babalola. So correcting a lot of things like that. So these guys need to be selfless. They need to know more about the church. They need to be very strategic in their positioning.
Yes.
If I say almost enemy, the almost enemy should be showing perhaps what almost Omosele in church, at home, in business, in community.
Yes.
That should revolve around your name.
Yes.
If you say Celestial Heritage, you have no business as Celestial Heritage at your title, filming Harvest. Harvest is part of our heritage. But making sure that what each and every one of you stands for contributes to the overall positive impression
Of
the church. And they can also do many more things. Many more things.
Thank you so much, sir. So in 1 minute, Tomiwa, what do you think is a lasting solution that can be provided to all of these problems?
As it stands, the church is not ready.
Okay.
Let's be sincere with ourselves. The church is not ready to help them.
Okay.
So the first step, I believe, is for them to understand that there is a need for understanding of what they carry. Like Emo rightly said, if you want to face documenting real stories about the church, face it. If you want to face the angle of telling us what our service and whatever miracle Papa Shafa did stands for, do that. We all have, this church is a wide market. It's a market that if you start something today and you are sure and you have facts about it, you are going to sell what you are selling. They should do more of fact finding. Fact finding is very, very important. We still have some people that are alive. I saw a snippet and I'm waiting for that interview. IBK interviewing Baba Banjo. I am waiting for that interview because I know you will get facts because that is what we need at this moment in our time.
Correct.
These people are going. Lastly, these people are going. This generation, like we had Babalo Olawere that I spoke about, we are losing a generation of people that work directly with SBJ. And I believe this is the time these media guys have to work, these blog guys. Get facts from them.
Reach out to them.
Reach out to them. Let them know you want to interview them so we
Okay.
can have facts when they leave.
All right. So
All
this,
right.
When
this
you,
is
when you still have an argument about how you light candle,
Candle,
on Sunday,
by now.
is it up or down?
By now.
or
Church
middle.
of, church of 74 years.
By now.
Hi.
This is a direct call to bloggers in CCC. Let's even call them for an experiment. Bloggers in CCC, come together. Let's use a quarter of a year to push one
This
idea.
experiment.
That's what will
Final.
happen.
Let's see what will happen.
We
Final.
need to do better.
Let's see what will
please.
happen. Over to you, beautiful Oyin.
All right, so that brings us to a wrap of this eye-opening episode of the Celestial Perspective podcast. Joseph, you must agree with me that it was such an enlightening episode.
I'm telling you, these are two of the most or the brightest minds in our church. And they just proved it.
brightest. Thank you so much, Emo. It's a privilege to have you on the show.
Thank you, Oyin. You look beautiful, by the way.
Thank you, Tanwa. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much,
We're so
Oyin.
glad
Thank
to
you.
have you.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys. So thank you for joining us on this episode. A big shout out to all our sponsors, all our supporters. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and follow for more updates. Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.